Uber has pledged to shift their entire fleet of vehicles to electric only in the US and Canada at least by 2030. But what the heck does this actually mean for the drivers who own the cars? What's up, guys? Brandon Sellers here from Gridwise. Want to bring this news to you that has definitely some good pieces of this, and then some kind of weird pieces that I kind of just want to talk through and see what does this mean. If you haven't seen the news, Uber has essentially, they've said, okay, we're gonna shift our complete fleet of vehicles to across the U.S. and Canada to basically being electric only. So if you're driving for Uber in 2030, they're saying you're going to be driving a fully electric vehicle, it sounds like. And then they're also saying by 2040, that's going to be worldwide, right? So that kind of brings up, to, at least in my head, kind of immediately, it's like, okay, that's an interesting goal for a technology company that doesn't actually own any vehicles and employs no drivers. How exactly are you going to manage that? So that, that brings up some kind of interesting questions. And it does seem, I'm going to break down exactly what they're saying they're doing and how they say they're going to do it. And then we can talk a little bit about, okay, is that going to actually be a good thing for drivers, right? Before I get into it too much, if you do like Gridwise, if you like our stuff, if you like this video, if you like any of the videos we've ever done, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep bringing you some awesome content just like this. But let's go ahead and get into this here. So essentially Uber has released this thing called Uber Green, right? And then so basically riders are going to be able to pay an extra, I think, $1 per ride to ensure that they get a hybrid or an electric vehicle. That has launched in about 15 cities in the US and Canada at this point. And there is some incentives for drivers here, right? So if I'm a driver with a hybrid vehicle and I get one of these rides, I'm actually going to get paid an extra 50 cents per ride here. But if I have a fully electric vehicle, let's say I have a Nissan Leaf or something like that, then I'm going to actually get paid $1.50 per ride here. So that is interesting, but they're not really going to actually help drivers like directly. I would say they're not going to actually help drivers buy a car, right? So they're not going to essentially buy a car for you, but they're going to try to kind of dangle this carrot out for you to say, hey, well, you can get paid more here. They have said that they are going to basically work with automakers to provide some better deals for drivers. So what I think this is probably going to look like is you're going to essentially get some sort of an employee discount style thing for perhaps your Toyotas. I know they were talking to like Nissan. I believe they were talking to Honda, a couple other companies like that, in order to help drivers get more affordable electric or hybrid vehicles, because those are super expensive still, especially on like the purely electric end of things. Now, it is worth noting that Lyft has also done something specific here Lyft has also basically tried to do the same thing, or they've released the statement saying that they're going to be electric by 2030. It's interesting. You actually see some news outlets saying like, well, Lyft has said they're going to do the same thing. But their whole company is going to be electric only by 2030. Well, of course, because they're only in the U.S. and Canada. Uber has essentially announced the same thing. So that's neither here nor there. But they've announced the same thing. But they have much less in terms of detail. So I'm not seeing a Lyft Green. They're not paying drivers more to have like a certain vehicle. I haven't heard any announcements about them actually spending their own money to do this. Like Uber has specifically said this is going to be an $800 million investment for them over the next 20 years, I guess. And Lyft hasn't made nothing there. They kind of have really just said, yeah, we're going to be electric only by 2030. And they're very, very light on details, which is, it's odd for Lyft to honestly make an announcement like this before Uber, because generally Lyft will kind of follow Uber's footsteps in some of these things. So I do expect eventually there to be essentially a Lyft Green, and for Lyft to do something very similar to this. So let's talk about this. Like, what does this mean for drivers? Is this going to actually be good here? And it's like, I think it's hard to kind of look at what Uber has done here and really think that they're going too far out on a limb, because you do have drivers that are mostly hybrid, right? Like if you're a new driver, you're going to want to get the most gas efficient vehicle, which is probably you're trying to get the most cost effective hybrid vehicle you can. And if you can do that, then you're already going to do that now. So this probably is going to cause you to maybe think about it a little bit more, but you're probably already kind of doing this stuff, which honestly, that's great for drivers, because that means that you probably aren't going to have to sacrifice that much to be able to reap that additional benefit, which is the 50 cents additional per ride. Now, I think you have to keep in mind that it's going to be 50 cents additional payout per ride for those Uber Green calls. It's not just for every call, which is, that's good. For 50 cents per ride. If you could manage to get 200 of those rides, 200 of those rides a week, you probably can't do that. I'm doing a little bit of math in my head right now. You might be able to get 200 of those rides like that a month. If you get 200 of those rides like that a month, if you're in like a pretty big city, especially a more liberal city that really, is green, and then Uber's going to push this. They might make this kind of like a default option. They're going to want to push this. They're going to want to be seen as the green company. So they're going to be pushing this thing. If you can get 200 rides like this here, that's an extra $100 a month. You might be able to get, I don't know, maybe you can get 400 rides like this. That's an extra $200 a month. That's real. That's a real benefit. Now, the thing that you have to think about is, well, am I having to pay $200 more per month for my vehicle in order to make that $200 per month? So what's like the true profitability there? That is still a little bit up in the air. It's kind of hard to, you have to kind of do the math yourself there. That's why we're not really breaking down that specifically. You kind of got to do the math for yourself. And it's hard right now to understand, hey, how many drivers or how many riders are really trying to get this service, right? So it's probably going to be it might be something where you kind of wait and see. And one thing that we'll be reporting on is, hey, how many riders are actually adopting Uber Green. That'll help drivers understand how often whether it's a good time to actually invest in this. If you have 75% of riders trying to get Uber Green rides, and then so all of a sudden, if you're like a full-time driver, you might do 800. You might do, you could do a significant number of those rides, and that could make a big difference in terms of your bottom line of $200, maybe $250 a month, something along those lines. Which again, that's pretty significant there. So, probably not worth it right now from a fully electric vehicle standpoint. It'll be interesting to see. They say, okay, we're working with these companies to give drivers better offers for electric vehicles, for hybrid vehicles. What do those offers look like? And then when we walk down and do the math, then we'll have to see, okay, is it worth it? $1.50 extra per ride is, again, that's significant. But then it's like I might only get 100 of these a month. If I only get 100 of these a month, that's $150 more. Am I going to have to put all of that, maybe more, toward purchasing this electric vehicle and that monthly car note for that electric vehicle? So that's kind of like the math every driver's going to have to go down. And yeah, when we start to get more info, more data in about how many people are adopting Uber Green, what these offers are for drivers to get more affordable hybrid vehicles, more affordable electric vehicles, we'll be able to kind of walk down a better calculation of how worth it is for drivers. So it's really a little bit of a wait and see type thing when you talk about purely the bottom line. It's just hard to know right now because we just don't know what adoption is going to look like yet for Uber Green, though I would think adoption is going to be pretty high here. So yeah, it could be a really nice program for Uber. We always talk about how Uber doesn't do anything purely for themselves. Note that, you're only getting paid a half of that dollar fee or I think it might be $3, and you only get half that $3 fee for like a electric only vehicle. So I could be wrong on that, but I mean, if they're getting 50% of that, then that means their take rate increases 50%, increases to 50% for that piece there. They love to talk about that. That they are making money off of this for sure. So keep that with a grain of salt. But I mean, take this with a grain of salt. But definitely some benefits in this for drivers. So I am kind of all for this right now. Certainly from an environmental standpoint, it's better. Rideshare vehicles are heavy polluters. Something needs to be done about that. So all on that side of things, it's a no-brainer, absolutely, in terms of profitability for drivers and what this does for drivers. This is probably going to be a good thing. It's just a little bit of a wait and see. So there we go, drivers. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think this new Uber Green is going to be good for drivers? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll be back next time.